To start our acrylic painting, we need to get a few things ready. Now I've got this back placemat so that I don't get paint on my table because acrylic paint is permanent and I don't want that on my table. I'm going to be painting on this piece of cardboard instead of a piece of paper. Because it's cardboard, I've got to cut it out, so I can find some other pieces that are pre-cut, or you can cut whatever shape you want. Square, I made mine into a long rectangle, so that's kind of up to you what shape you would like your painting to be. It could be kind of an unusual shape as well. Other supplies that you're going to need is a paintbrush, as well as some tape and a paper towel. So, cardboard, brush, paint, tape, back placemat, and then an optional apron. Now, the first thing that you're gonna do is we're gonna have to plan this out a little bit. So I'm gonna look at my color wheel to help me decide what color scheme I wanna use for this painting. A color scheme is a set of colors that just work really well together and have a special relationship. So one example of a color scheme that you could use are complementary colors. We've talked about complementary colors. An example is orange and blue. They are across the wheel from each other. So you could use just two colors and have it be a complementary color set. Another color scheme you could do would be with analogous colors. We've also talked about these. They are neighbors. So with analogous colors, you could do just two colors or three colors together, depending on how fast of a painter you are, whether you want to do two or three. Those analogous colors would just, once again, have to be right next to each other on the color wheel. Another color scheme you could use is the triadic color scheme, and this is actually what I picked. And this consists of three colors that are across from each other equally, so they make a triangle out of this color wheel. And so you can see in the example, there's red, orange, blue, violet, and yellow, green, and they are all equal distant from each other in this triangle shape. The last color scheme example is called split complementary colors, and it is similar to complementary colors except for that instead of yellow going across to violet, yellow would be with violet's neighbors, red violet and blue violet. So it's kind of like complementary colors, but you got three colors instead of two, and you're with those complements neighbors. So those are some examples that you could use for your color scheme. We'll start with our sketch paper to write down what color scheme we're picking and then sketch out how we want to use our tape so we're not peeling our tape off and trying to readjust it all the time. So I wrote 1, 2, 3 for the three colors I'm using, which is red, yellow, and blue. And then I also wrote down 1 and 2 for my tape layers. So the first layer, I'm going to be taping down all the diagonal lines, and the second layer, I'm going to be doing the horizontal lines. You could even color the tape lines different colors to help you remember as well. Let's finally get started on this painting. I'm starting out with my piece of cardboard, and I've got my paint over here. I'm doing yellow as my first color, and I'm going to paint the whole background yellow. As you can see, I also have some white over there and some black because I'm going to be doing some shades and values of each of my colors to just make it a little bit more interesting instead of a flat yellow. Of course, before we actually start painting, we definitely want to remember to write our name on the back because this is going to be completely covered with paint. It's going to be much easier to write at the beginning. So I'm going to be starting off with a double loaded brush, which means I have both yellow and white on it at the same time. And that kind of gives a really pretty look that's not quite mixed together. So I'll have some areas that are more white than others and some areas that are more yellow. And I'm just going to leave it that way. Sometimes it might get kind of blended together, but sometimes I just love to see those streaks of different values of yellow in my paint. If you find there are any big clumps of paint on your cardboard, spread them out so that they dry faster, because as soon as I finish painting all this yellow on, I have to wait for it to dry to do my next step. It's dry now. So I am going to be taking out my little sketch paper and putting it back here so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to take my tape and I'm going to rip or cut pieces that are about the right length. And I'm actually going to stick it on my shirt before I put it on my cardboard just to make sure it comes off a little bit easier. Otherwise, I don't want it to rip my cardboard. So I stick it onto my shirt and then I stick it onto my cardboard. Then I'm going to try to have them go a little bit off the edge so they're easier to peel off later. Make sure you are being careful as you put it down. I like to smooth it from one side first and very lightly adjust it before I stick the whole thing down. Otherwise, you're gonna end up with some crinkly up tape like this. Ooh, but don't throw it away if it gets a little crinkled. You still might be able to save it like I did. Yes. All right, so put down that first layer and make sure you're sharing with any neighbors if you need to share your tape. You may notice that my design is not gonna look exactly like my sketch because my tape is a little bit thicker than I anticipated. So that's okay. If your design changes a little bit when you're actually doing your process, that is just fine. It doesn't have to be just like your sketch. Just make it look as best as you can. I will say it is really hard sometimes to get these top parts that don't go off the edge. So this little triangle shape, it stops in the middle of my painting, so I'm really gonna be working hard to make that top be flat like I want. So I'm doing a lot of little adjustments and cuts with pieces. I saved some of my little tiny pieces just in case I needed them to extend the edge of my tape a little bit. Now that I have this all taped on, I don't have to wait any longer. It's time for my next layer of paint, which is red, which is actually the same color as my tape. Oh my goodness, it's gonna blend in. I'm doing a double loaded brush with red and white this time, so it makes kind of a pinkyish color in some places. I'm actually gonna also do some black and red, so I'm gonna move some black over here so I can get a double loaded brush to make this red shade as well. So you can play with black and white, just be careful to not mix a lot of black and white together on the same brush, otherwise you might be getting some tones instead, which aren't quite as bright. Maybe that's what you want to go for, but I'm going to try to keep my black and my white pretty separate and only mix them together with my red. Once you are finished, it's time to let it dry again. I can feel this red paint and see that it is dry once again, which means I'm going to be adding my next layer of tape on there. Don't forget to pre-stick that tape onto your shirt so it comes off easy. And then as soon as I have that tape firmly pressed down, I'm going to be using my double loaded brush, so beautiful with this blue and white, and try to paint over it all. Now I'm kind of leaving some of the spaces that I know are tape open, but if you want to just paint over the whole painting, that's a good way to make sure you don't miss any spots too. So it's kind of up to you with how you want to paint this final layer. The blue has dried, and y'all, this is the best part, is when I get to take off the tape and see what it looks like. Some may even say it is so satisfying to peel the tape off and see what it looks like underneath. When you are taking this off, try to take it off at a 45-degree angle and nice and slow. So once again, we don't want to be ripping our cardboard. I went ahead and signed this on the bottom right corner because I love to show my name off on the front when I'm proud of my artwork. I hope you have fun making your tape resist acrylic painting.